feeling so hopeless today. School started, and I hate my classes, and I don't even know how I feel about some of my friends anymore.
Did you hear that? Was that gunshots?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
Okay. Oh my god, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
Quiet, quiet. You have to listen.
We're gonna die. We're gonna die. No, we're gonna die.
Get in there.
I've been feeling really down lately. My mom's been focused on my baby sister and my little brother, and my dad's been working really hard lately. And I'm just not happy with all the stuff that's been going on around me, and I have no control over it. The other day, Kay got pulled out of school because she was cutting herself. And then Carrie's brother recently died because he overdosed on some sort of opium. And there's no one I can talk to about this because my mom and dad are unavailable, and I really only have you.
Hello, and welcome back to Resiliency and Self-Esteem. I am hosting the show, Dr. Barbara Holstein, and I have with me tonight a wonderful guest, Jeff Rasley. And the wonderful thing about Jeff is he's here with us for the second time. Yay, yay, yay. He wanted to come back. And he has a fascinating background and all sorts of things that go with the background and the sports and the mountain climbing and all sorts of things. So Jeff, if there's anything specific you would like to use to introduce yourself, go ahead, and I'm going to let you do your own introduction, and then we'll get back to my first question.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Good to be with you and see you again. As far as an introduction, since it is my second time on the show, I'll just be brief. I suppose what's most relevant to our discussion tonight, I'm currently the president of two charitable foundations, one that's based here in Indiana, and its mission is to help support STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and medicine education for young people in Indiana, especially underserved neighborhoods. And then I'm also the president of the Bassa Village Foundation, which has a sister foundation in a remote area of Nepal. And we work together to develop what we call culturally sensitive infrastructure development in this one particular area. And just today, it was kind of a wonderful day for that organization, because we sent off a wire transfer to our Nepali team, which will buy 50 goats and 50 pigs for the community's cooperative, and it will pay the English teacher's salary in the village school for 2 years. So that was kind of a nice day.
That is so wonderful. It's like, you wake up in a dream that's come true. And it's reminding me of a very small, tiny thing in my own life, which is just the opposite. But for some reason, I'm feeling an urge to share it. And that was a dream I had when I was about 5. And there was a bicycle waiting for me. I think it was supposed to be Christmas time. And in the dream, I could feel that bicycle. I was already touching it and, imagining going off down the street and everything. And then I woke up and it was not there, so many times in our lives, something is simply not there. Either we haven't been able to create it or restore it or find the right people. And I'm so happy for you, Jeff, that not only are you creative, but you find the right people and the right opportunities. So let me hope that my questions are good, and if they're not, you change them a little bit to make them what you want to say. So the first question we thought of was, tell us about the Himalaya trekking group you headed with both young people and senior citizens. How were their reactions the same? How were they different?
Yeah, that was a really interesting group to organize and lead. We called it our senior seniors because the young people were graduating seniors from Marian University, and they were in a class I taught at the university. Um, and the class was about the history, development, and philosophy of philanthropy. And so the students had two options. They could write a final paper, term paper, or they could come to Nepal with me and actually perform some kind of a philanthropic project that they had planned out and written up and had my approval. And because there were only six of the students that were able to do that, I invited a number of Trekker friends to come with us, and we had an equal number of seniors because everybody in the senior group was over 60. So we had this delightful combination of graduating college seniors and senior citizens. And so to get to your question about difference between the two age groups, it was very interesting. We had a very challenging, difficult trek because of the weather. The trek itself, as it was planned, was not for a Himalayan trek. It was not intended to be a real extreme one. It was not going to be easy. I mean,
Mhm.
no Himalayan trek is, but it wasn't going to be. We were going to climb one 14,000-foot mountain. That would be our highest point, and that wouldn't require any technical climbing. It would basically be just a very difficult hike to the summit. And we even had to cancel because the weather was so bad. We couldn't see the trail and the kind of the route up to the peak. And because of the rain, people in the group were getting sick. We
Oh,
we had attack of these huge blood-sucking leeches, and everybody in the group got at
mhm.
least a few leeches sucking away on her blood. And so what we had hoped would be this wonderful, beautiful experience and kind of, capstone for the college kids, and turned out to be fairly miserable because of that. So we got to Bassa Village, which is the area that the Bassa Village Foundation works with. And the students were supposed to do their project there. And there were, some really interesting things they come up with, different sociological and economic studies and some minor building projects. And um, all but two of the students, so four of the six, were so beat, so tired, they not only did not do the projects they were supposed to do, they decided that they needed to just get back to Kathmandu without any more trekking. And we had 5 more days of hiking to do for the group to get back to Kathmandu. Only one of the seniors decided to bail out at that point. So, in terms of the generational different reaction, the old folks were more resilient and coped with, adapted to this unfortunate, bad, rough experience better than the young people. And then what was really ironic is the day that the youngsters left to hike to where they would get transport back to Kathmandu, the weather broke, and we had beautiful weather the rest of the time. And those of us who finished the trek had a wonderful trekking experience for the latter part of that trek.
Well, life can be very, very strangely adventurous at times. And yeah, seniors can be very tenacious and very, very insistent to finish out a project and stuff like that. It's interesting. But still, it can be, the saying, youth is wasted on the young. Some of that is true also because we can't really train at certain levels or do certain things that are obviously, are designed in our youth that we could.
Well,
Uh,
that's for sure. And I
yeah,
experienced the pain of that in those last few days because the two young guys had both been fairly serious runners, and I tried to keep up with them, and we do some trail running and so forth. And I was in pain, and
I am
when they were
sure
not.
I was brought up uh, to see how you would, I'm sure you'll be startled when I tell you, but I was babied and pampered and protected. And one of the things that my grandmother said that came down in the family, although no one wanted to really admit that it was anything but silly, was if you're a girl, don't ever carry or lift anything that weighs more than 6 oranges. So, sometimes I remember that if my husband is asking me to help him with the groceries or vice versa or whatever. But anyway, thankfully, girls play a completely different role most of the time in what they learn to do with, sports and stuff. So let me go on to the second question. You also coached youth sports for 10 years. How did you go about helping them build self-esteem and resilience? And, obviously pushing them, I would say, after some of the, things we just were talking about, pushing them to develop.
Yeah. Well, I played a lot of sports, still do to some extent. And I had really developed by the time I was coaching regularly a philosophy of how to coach at youth sports anyway. And it had four pillars. One was have fun, two, exercise, three, learn team building, and four, skill development. And so every practice that I ran, I tried to, in one way or another, integrate those four principles into what I was doing. And then none of those are exactly aimed at building self-esteem and resilience, but together, I think they do. And here's kind of a very simple illustration. And individual sports are probably easier to make this point with, but it really applies to just about every sport. So let's just take running, track. Uh, as you run, you discover that it's painful. It starts to hurt. The further you run, the more it hurts, and the faster you run, and the more you do fast repetitions, the more it hurts. But you also begin to learn that the more you do that, the better you get. You run faster, you run farther, and it's a fairly straightforward learning experience. And so kids that realize this fairly simple reality begin to decide, how much do I care about this sport? How serious am I about running track? And you reach sort of your own equilibrium about that. And so you figure out, okay, if I'm really serious and I want to be, really top runner, I'm going to run harder, I'm going to run further, I'm going to run longer, and I'm going to figure out how to endure more and more and more pain. And so this sort of experience can then translate into all aspects of life. I mean, you figure out, oh, okay, well, the harder I study, the longer I study, the better my grades are going to be. The harder I work at my job, et cetera, I'll
Yes,
be more
yes.
appreciated and so forth. And then the rest, the other principles work into that because you have to also be part of a team. So, how you work out, how you participate in practice, um, integrates with the team. So you're putting out not just for yourself, not just to become, the best runner you can be, but the best teammate you can be. And then, of course, skill development is very much the same thing. It's, developing muscle memory, doing this first, figuring out how to do it, which the coach should instruct. And then once you begin to comprehend the fundamentals, you practice over and over and over until it's just muscle memory. And the more you do it, the greater your skill becomes. Um, and
Yeah.
then in terms of the fun, if all of this is just pain and it's not fun, you're going to quit. And so somehow you also have to find a way to enjoy this. And the athletes that figure all of that out and really enjoy it are the ones that are going to become the best athletes.
Yeah, because they've put it all together. They get the most out of it for sure. I understand that. The
Okay,
one
we have
I
10
have,
minutes. We have 10 minutes left.
okay, let me jump ahead. Um, can you elaborate on how the physical and mental aspects of sports contribute to this development, which I think you just did? So let me just go on. In your opinion, how can coaches and leaders help individuals with uh, uh, various self-esteem and resilience projects who are moving ahead in that way?
Yeah, well, I think it really in just what I was
Yes.
describing, that if a coach doesn't understand how to work that formula with a particular team member or the team, then it won't it won't flow together. You'll have somebody who drives himself nuts because he's working way too hard, doesn't develop that equilibrium, and you'll have other players who don't really try very hard and they just experience failure.
You're absolutely right. What are your hopes and dreams at this point with all of this stuff that you brought up? Is it more trips for yourself with different age groups? Is it writing a book about these principles? What are some of the dreams you're now carrying?
Well, I've written two articles that were published about that coaching philosophy, and they were one was in a kind of a Christian for a Christian youth organization, and the other was a local magazine here in Indianapolis that was for parents and kids. Um, and in terms of my own self, I continue to play. Well, I'm down to playing one sport, which is pickleball. And I try to apply, and I'm actually the organizer and leader of two pickleball groups. And so I try to apply those principles to us old folks that are still trying to hang on to and believe that we're still sort of athletes out there on the pickleball court.
Well,
As
you
far as going
probably
back to
are.
Nepal,
You probably
yeah.
are, according to your doctor, still an athlete because of what this has done to your body over the years.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'll ever go back to Nepal. I still love the philanthropic work that our foundation is doing, and I'm going to do that for as long into the future as I can see it. So I'm still connected, and we will have somebody from our organization every year that goes over to, see things on the ground and, make personal reports. But I think my climbing and high altitude trekking days are probably behind me.
Well, the last thing is you wouldn't want to come down having fainted up in the light atmosphere or anything. There does come a time where sometimes it's best to be cautious.
Yeah, and that's part of that, finding that equilibrium.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
need
absolutely.
life needs to be a balance.
Yeah. So these are wonderful principles that you've brought together, and I guess we have only 3 or 4 minutes. Is there anything else you want to share or give to the world through this talk?
Well, quick personal anecdote. When I went to college, my last 2 years, I really wanted to play football again, which I hadn't played since earlier in high school. But I also wanted to go to a university that was a great educational institution. So I transferred to the University of Chicago because they were rebuilding a football team after having dropped football as a varsity sport. So I knew I could play, but they had a rule that you only had to go to practice or games if it was not an academic conflict. So the first year I was on the team, I scheduled a class to conflict with practice twice a week. So I went to practice 3 times a week. Next year, I scheduled a class to conflict with practice 3 times a week. So I went to practice twice a week. I got to play college football, loved it, but I only put in as much time and effort to it as I thought a well-balanced life could justify. And I think, that was sort of an early understanding for me of how you need to balance all of the things, the competing things in your life that are important to you, and not, become too obsessive
Yes.
about any one thing.
So you are a visionary. I am welcoming you to my visionary club because what you just said is really a concept of visionary. The mind is able to understand, to make a difference that won't get you in trouble, that is based on your personal needs that someone else may never understand. And you worked with it, you made it real. So thank you once again. So hopefully we'll stay in touch. And
Well, yes, we certainly will, and thank you for having me again, Barbara. It's been once again a great pleasure.
oh, good. I'm glad, Jeff. It was a lot of fun too for me. Good night now.
Namaste.
I like that. Yes.